Hi everyone, today we're going to be making this cute little holiday card that I put together using a bunch of different products and stamp sets from Fun Stamper's Journey. As always, I do go ahead and do the inside of the card as well. So it just says ho 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 on the front, and then on the inside holiday wishes. So let's go ahead and get started making the card. Let me take you through a couple of products that we're using. Number one, we're going to be using the Happy Holidays embossing folder by Fun Stamper's Journey. We're going to use the hat from Winter Fred, which is an ATS. We're going to be using the Ho 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 and the Holiday Wishes from Jolly Friends. We'll be using Chevron Trail for the background on the red paper, embossing that with our Journey White Embossing Powder. We'll be using this little guy from the Cats and Dogs stamps. And then we're going to be using this here from the Snapshot Frames die set. I love this set. It has so many different things for so many different holidays, and I feel like it's a great bargain. So take a look at that in the catalog or the link down below for my personal Fun Stamper's Journey page where you can shop 24/7. And I also went ahead and used the die cut that's with the Cats and Dogs die set, because I bought the bundle for that set, and this is the die cut for the little dog that we're using on the card there. Last but not least, I used Journey Glaze for the dog's eyes, and I lied actually. I did go ahead and put a little bit of Limeade Splash Satin ribbon on the card as well, so we'll be doing that as well. All right, let's go ahead and get started. All right, so I have all of my papers cut along with my ribbon. I will be going ahead and doing some die cutting and embossing. I already went ahead and I embossed the background, so using this folder right here. And I did go ahead and die cut the Snapshot Frames die cut. So we will go ahead and put the chevron on that. So we'll start by doing the chevron. And I am going to use my Misti to get a really good impression of the Chevron Trails stamp here. It's a great stamp, but it is a large stamp, and I'm trying to go ahead and put it pretty straight and get it just right and get it thoroughly stamped. So I'm going to go ahead and just use my Misti just to make sure, because I have such a small sheet here that I'm going to be stamping on. I'm going to put just a little adhesive on here. Make sure that when I stamp, it's not going to come back up with that chevron stamp. So let's see how this works. Okay, we're going to make sure it's lined up properly. And I am going to take my Versamark ink. I'm going to ink this up really well. Make sure that it's super inked up all over. Then I'm actually going to remove it from here. And I'm going to go ahead and, you know what, before I do that, I'm going to put just a little bit of powder on. It'll make that excess embossing powder go away much quicker and much easier. All right. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to go ahead and place it right on top. Make it as straight as possible. All right, then I'm going to bring over my acrylic. I'm going to press it down really well all over. And hopefully that little bit of tape works so that I don't have to peel it right off. Yes, it did. Now take a quick look. I think I missed a little spot right there. There's a couple of little spots. I'm going to re-ink the beauty of the Misti. I'm going to re-ink that up. It's going to go exactly where it was before, so I don't have to worry about it not matching up. I'm going to push it back down, really make it a very thorough impression. All right. That's a pretty great impression. So I'm going to carefully remove it. And then I'm going to go ahead and get my Misti out of the way. Then I'm going to go ahead and take a sheet of paper here, take my white embossing powder, be very generous with it, get it all over. We're going to put the excess right back in, so no worries on waste. All right. When I tried this earlier, I had a lot of residual powder, and I actually had to go in with a paintbrush. You'll see like right here, I have a little bit of powder that I don't want to necessarily be there. Other than that, it looks really good. So I'm going to go ahead and bake this. Let me put this to the side. I want to get my powder back in the bottle first so it doesn't blow all over the place. And I'll be using my heat gun to go ahead and bake this white embossing powder. And this does take a little bit to bake, but you want to be careful not to burn yourself. I don't know if you can see that changing color there. Really makes a brilliant, brilliant white against that red. Once your gun is heated up, it goes very quickly. So you want to keep your gun moving so that you don't burn the paper. All right, we're good. We'll go ahead and set that to the side. Next, we're going to take our card base. We're going to go ahead and do the inside really quick. All right, so for the inside, I have these 3 sheets. I'm going to take my white sheet. I'm going to go ahead and ink up my little guy here. Put him in the corner, peeking out, just like I did on the sample. There he is. And then I'm going to take my holiday wishes. ink that up really well. And we're going to put that down as centered as we can get it. Perfect. Now I did use some Spectrum Noir markers to go ahead and color the dog. I am going to stamp the dog one more time though, because I do need him for the front of the card. So I'm going to stamp him on a scrap sheet of paper. We're going to be using a die cut to cut him out. And I'm using, of course, our True Color Fusion Black Licorice ink, which I love. Gives such a dark black color when you impress your image. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and color our little guy here. And I'm going to be using Spectrum Noir markers. I'll be using IG6 for his nose. Let's go ahead and do that. I am going to take my darkest color, and I'm going to use this side always. I'm going to just put a little bit of shading, not too picky where it's going to go. Doesn't have to be too perfect. Give him a little shading under his chin, his paw, maybe in his little creases here. And we'll shade his tail just a little. Alright, now I'm going to go back. I'm going to go ahead and shade some of these same parts for the inside of the card. And this is using my TN7. Now I'm going to go back in with TN3, and that's going to be my main fur color. So I'm going to start in the dark. I'm going to go ahead and blend out of it. Okay. Don't be afraid to go back over if you don't see the blending that you want to see. Don't be afraid to be aggressive where you have some of the darker color. If you want images to look similar on the front and the inside of the card, it's always a good idea to just color them at the same time so that you remember exactly how you colored them. I've made that mistake once or twice, so that's my advice. Just using small circles to get him all colored in. Again, being more aggressive where I brought in that darker color in his little creases there. Okay. Then I'm going to go to the inside of the card and finish him off. Straight off the edge there. Okay. Perfect. Now for his muzzle, I chose a little bit of a different color just to give it some contrast. So So I'm going to go ahead and bring in TN2, and that's going to be his muzzle color. And again, I mean, these are small areas. You don't have to be super precise. Give that a second to dry. We'll go over here and do the same thing. Okay. Now the reason that I'm alternating between the two is I want to give this one just a little bit of time to dry. So I'm going to go back in and you'll see I'm taking the same color and I'm actually making a little bit of a shadow. You don't always need the next color up to do that. So now this guy is a little bit drier, so I'm coming back over here. I'll make those same shadows. And I'm not a professional artist. I don't pay too much attention to how these shadows need to look. So I just add them where I think they should go. All right. So he's all set. I'm going to actually take him and I'm going to die cut him. So I'm holding it steady over there. I'm just putting a little bit of Post-it tape down. And then I'm going to move him to my die cut machine, which is right behind me here. Okay, so I'm sorry, but there's always the great debate, and I have to bring it up here. Do I color before I die cut or after I die cut? Because I might mess up the die cut, quite honestly. And if I put in a half hour of coloring an image, I may choose to die cut first and color the image after I've had a successful die cut. So just something to consider in your endeavors. I'm going to go ahead and matte this inside using my adhesive runner from Fun Stamper's Journey. I love that adhesive. And I'm going to take this and I'm going to matte it on the larger red rectangle. Then I'm going to attach it to the inside of my card. Okay. Perfect. Now for the front of the card, we do have our green embossed piece. Let me get these out of the way. We're still going to use our reds. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to apply the adhesive directly on the card front because I don't want to mess up the great embossing that I've gotten on that green piece. I think I went a little too close to the edge there. That's okay. You can easily fix that. All right, let's lay down our embossing. There we go. Now, my next goal is to get this little guy on here, and because I want it popped up and dimensional a little bit, it is a bit more challenging, but I'm going to take our foam squares and I'm going to go ahead and put a couple on here. I'm going to go ahead and cut a few. Then I'm going to take another one. I'm going to cut thin strips off of it. And just make sure I have a little bit of dimension here on the sides. So you can get probably 4 of whatever of what you need here widthwise out of one medium square of our Journey foam squares. And I'm going to take one more, make sure my corners are covered. This is a little painstaking, but it's worth it in the end to take just a little bit of time to do something like this. It's kind of making a little shadow box for the dog. Just do one more there at the top. Alright, so, and I'm going to save this last piece. We can use it later on. Okay, so before we go ahead and set this down, I'm going to take a little piece of our Limeade Splash ribbon and I'm just going to tie a knot. That's it. We'll go back and trim that up later exactly how we want it. But now we can go ahead and take off all of the backings. Make sure we're set. I think a couple of them already had the backing off. Okay. All right, and we'll go ahead and set this down. Centered on the card. Okay. So next we'll go ahead and do our Ho 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 sentiment. We're going to use our black licorice ink again. Ink that up really well. Make sure it's centered as best you can. We'll just flip that right over. All right. And I'm going to go ahead and put some adhesive on the back of that. Press that down. Whoops. Make sure it's centered the way that you want it. You can go ahead and trim off one side if you need to make it a little bit smaller. And we're going to put our foam squares right on the back of this. And we'll go ahead and center that. Now you'll notice that I missed part of that ho ho ho. So I'm going to go in with just any little black pen or marker and I'm just going to cover it up. No big deal. Okay, next I'm going to go ahead and attach the puppy. And of course we're giving him some dimension as well. I love it that he looks a little bit stunned, like, why am I wearing this Santa hat? I love his expression. The last thing that we're doing is really stamping that Santa hat, coloring that in and attaching it to the card, and then we'll just trim up our ribbon. And as a finishing touch, we're going to go ahead and put on the Journey Glaze. Just give that a second to dry there. It certainly doesn't take long. We're going to take CR11 and CR8. We're going to do a little bit of coloring here. We're going to start with our CR11. Put it where you think there might be darker spots. Come back with our CR8. Start within the CR11 and blend that color out. And then just finish it up with little circles. I'm going to go ahead and fussy cut the Santa hat because there is no die cut that I know of that matches that set. I did just purchase the detailed shears here, so I'm excited to try them out. Okay. They cut so nicely. I'm super impressed. I'm usually impressed with everything, so that doesn't surprise me. Every product that I've tried from Fun Stamper's Journey is just above the quality that I even expect. So I have not been disappointed at all. It's my first pair of scissors from Fun Stamper's Journey. And it's very easy to maneuver because they didn't make the blades as long as some of the others that I've worked with. So it is much easier to maneuver around. All right, we'll just finish this up. We're going to attach this with some foam tape again. We'll use that little piece that we had from before. Put another dot here. We want just a little tiny piece. For the ball on his hat. It's important to still give it some dimension. Alright, let's place this little guy down. Perfect. So now I'm going to take my ribbon cutting scissors and I'm going to go ahead and cut this the way I want it. Just make sure there's no fraying on the edges. All right, perfect. Then I'm going to go in with our Journey Glaze and I will go ahead and fill in his eyes with our Journey Glaze. And the key to using this glaze product or similar ones is just to keep your tip down to the paper and keep moving. You really don't want to raise your tip up off the paper until you're completely done adding product. So that helps alleviate any bubbles. So we're going to set him aside for a little bit to let him dry. But just to take the original sample, we have ho 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 on the front here, and then the inside of the card looks like that. I very much enjoyed making this card. I hope that you enjoyed the tutorial today. Thank you so much for joining me. Don't forget to check out my Fun Stampers Journey personal website and 24/7 shopping, or if anybody is interested in a class in the Phoenix metro area, I am happy to come out and do a live class for you and your friends. Thanks so much for joining me today. Have a good day.